Please start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag
of the United States
of the United States of America
and to the republic
and
for which
to the
it
republic
stands,
for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we'll go right into the public comment section. Tonight we have East Hampton's town attorney, John Jelnicki, here to discuss with us the proposed seaplane legislation that the town is working on.
Right. And so basically,
Hi,
the town has had some concerns about the increase in seaplane traffic in the town and areas outside of the airports, I should say. And as a result, we developed a modification to the town's airport statute, chapter 73 in the town code. And then based on concerns for safety and for the environmental protection of sensitive areas of the town, the proposal is essentially to not allow seaplanes to land or to taxi or dock or be moored or in any way operate within the town's waterways, with the exception of course, the town airport. They're free to land in the town airport. And this is really being done just for both protection of the public using the waterways for other purposes, for recreation, and just to protect the ecology and eliminate nuisances to the public in general that are looking for some quiet enjoyment of the town's waterways and shorefront. And so it's not a significant amendment to the code as far as language goes. It's a relatively small amendment, but it addresses the landing of aircraft on the waterways, and it basically would amend paragraph 73(1), which is aircraft prohibited, just to include that no person, firm, or corporation shall land or cause to be landed, take off, or cause to take off or taxi any helicopter on or from the waters, beaches, or any land in the town of East Hampton except at the town airport, the Montauk Airport. And likewise, it has a similar prohibition for seaplanes, that no seaplane shall land, take off, or taxi, emplane, or deplane on any of the town beaches and waterways, trustee waters and beaches, town waters, town docks, and or floats. And there are exceptions. There's exceptions for any federal, state, or local government aircraft, emergency services, evacuation services, whether they're public or private, or the operation of any aircraft in an emergency when there's a need to make a landing, an emergency landing. Of course, it wouldn't apply to that. It also doesn't apply to seaplane operations that originate from or terminate at Gardiner's Island, with the caveat that they file a written flight plan with the town beforehand. I understand that historically the number of seaplane landings and takeoffs to and from Gardiner's Island is fairly minimal. There have not been a lot, but recognizing the need that they might on occasionally wish to do that, the intention is to ask them to notify us ahead of time so we're aware of the flight plan and where they're landing and taking off, so that we have some notice, and if we have any issues with it, we can raise it with them then before they fly. And then just provides for penalties for violating the code. The first offense is a fine of $1,500 to $5,000, and subsequent offenses within an 18-month period can be between $5,000 to $10,000 for a violation. So hopefully this would be effective. The airport is available for seaplanes to land. A lot of seaplanes do land in the airport presently. The commuter planes from New York City, for the most part, from what I understand, typically will land at the airport when they have a scheduled run. This is really just for those occasions when somebody decides that they want to be delivered, to a specific point by way of a seaplane and want to land into the beach or in the waterway. I think that's probably I can't say too much more about it unless I start repeating myself. So that's that's the gist of it. It's just 2 sections added to Chapter 73. And I know that the town board would very much appreciate your thoughts on it, either now or in the future. I mean, certainly let us know. And if you need me to circulate the draft again, I don't know if previously, in the previous draft, if the Gardeners Island exception was in there or not. So maybe I should just email this around so that you have it, the most current version.
Don, where's the town been having problems with seaplane landings?
I believe it's been mainly in the Amagansett, I don't think there's been too much in the way of ocean landings, but in the bay, and Amagansett has been one area where we have received complaints from people. I know they do land in Montauk. I don't know if we've gotten a lot of complaints about it, but they do land in Montauk as well. Not in the airport, but in the bay. So.
Yeah, I think I've heard Northwest area also.
I hadn't heard about that, but I can certainly give you more details as to where the issues have been if you want. I can get that info. Make a little note.
John,
Go ahead, John.
was there any discussion among the town board members of designating a specified area for landings, seaplanes in the water?
No, they really have felt that they'd like to not see them landing in the waterways at all, mainly because of the fairly extensive use of the waterways by non-aviation individuals.
Trustees, excuse me, but you have 2 callers waiting.
John, I want to say thank you very much. And I have to say that, I mean, I'm on the waters. Francis, I've not seen anything in the Northwest Harbor, and I'm on that water almost every day.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't seen it. But, I mean, if it's happening in Amagansett and just the busyness on the water, given the situation we're in right now, especially, but even just over the 3-day holiday weekend, there was tons and tons of boats on the water. A lot of usage, and I can't really imagine that bringing a seaplane in to a specific spot would be advantageous to any of the safety protocols that we're looking at. So I'd have to agree with what the town board's kind of pushing for, is that this just is a good quick little nip in the bud to stop this.
This is Susan McGraw-Keeber. I'm calling in today. We don't have any power at our house. So I just want to say I have the proposed amendment, John, and I thank you again for coming in to explain this to us. Sure. With the seaplane operations, and it really is to protect the citizens and certainly the trustee waterways. So I think it's a very good idea that the seaplanes are restricted from landing. It's a matter of safety protocols. So I'm in favor of a letter of support to the town with this proposed amendment.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
No, I'd like to look it over before I make a.
Okay.
So, John, Chris Carrillo here. I did not see a version that had the gardener's exception. You're going to send over an updated draft of the language?
Yes. Yeah, I'll circulate that. And Francis, can I send it to you? I'll send it to you too, Chris, and you can distribute it to the whole board?
Yeah, that'd be fine, John.
Okay, great.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Just from a legal drafting standpoint, one recommendation I would have is I like to, and you've probably seen it a lot more than I even have with the trustee language, but I do like to see where it makes sense and stylistically where it's okay that East Hampton Town Trustee, or even the full version, the trustees, full version name be used rather than just a short form trustee, just for
just in the abundance of clarity.
Sure. So that's all I have, though. I think it looks
Good
fine.
point. No, that's a good point. I'll make sure we do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
In the original proposal that was sent to us in April, there is a map there, John, and they're all showing the entire area, including Gardner's Island, of where the seaplane restricted prohibited areas are.
Mhm.
And can you talk to the issue of the 1,500 foot from shoreline requirement?
Well,
Can
1,500,
you?
yeah, that's the jurisdictional limitation of the town on the waterways. We can't go beyond 1,500 feet because then we get into state jurisdiction.
Right.
So that's the limitation of our ability to limit activities on the waters.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Sure, absolutely.
So, John, in practice, is there any anticipation of seaplanes landing out past 1,500 feet and using water taxis to come in? I guess at that point, you're probably better off just landing at the airport, but I'm just trying to poke
Yeah.
holes in it and see where it might be a problem.
Yeah, we were not anticipating that happening. I think it's it seems to be a little burdensome, I think, for people to try to do that, but I guess the possibility could be there. We didn't think it was really a viable alternative, though.
Right. No, I would agree. I was just asking.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, thank you, John. When we get that updated version, we'll talk it over and get back to you.
All right. I think I'm going to make that correction that Chris just asked for, too.
Yeah.
And then I'll
Yeah.
send it around.
Okay.
But before we let John go, are our callers calling in relation to this legislation or no?
Yes, there is.
Well, there is. Okay.
We
Can
have
I
two
do one
callers.
thing first? Guys, I neglected to do roll call. Can we just quickly do that and then we'll go to the caller? Arlene?
Sure. John Aldred,
Yes, here.
Francis Bach,
Here.
Ben Dollinger,
I'm here.
Rick Drew,
Here.
Tim Garneau,
Here.
Jim Grimes,
Present.
Mike Martinson, Susan McGraw-Keeber,
Here.
and Bill Taylor.
Here.
Okay, I'll keep my eye out
Okay.
for Mike.
Thank you.
So you- thanks.
Thank you. All right. Can we speak to the caller about the seaplane issue?
Okay, I don't know what they are going to talk about, but you do have two calls. Would you like to take the first one?
Sure.
Okay, stand by, please. Caller, you are live.
Hi there. Who's calling? Hello, caller?
I'm not getting any audio from them.
Okay.
I do not know why. Caller, can you hear me?
Is this about the seaplane issue?
Go ahead,
Yes,
yes.
it is. Who's calling, please? Hello?
I'm not calling about the seaplane issue.
Okay. Well, go ahead anyway. We'll listen to you.
Okay, this is Janet Geller. And
Oh,
I'm calling
Janet.
about-
Okay. Janet, can I just finish? I know you're calling about the kayak racks, and we have you on the
Yes.
list for public comment. I'm going
Okay,
to put you on hold for a minute, okay? And we'll just finish up the
Okay,
seaplane
sure.
thing quickly and get back to you.
sure.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. How about calling number 2?
Okay, stand by, please. And caller number 2, go ahead.
Hello. Who's calling, please? Hello, caller.
You are still live.
Okay. Caller, are you on the line? Hello. All right. Let's finish up with John and move on.
Okay, give me 1 second to mute his mic. Okay, trustees, go ahead.
Okay. So, John, I guess that's it for tonight. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I'll get the revision out to everybody, and then you can just let me know if you need any more information or anything. All right?
Okay, great.
John.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you, John.
Have a good evening.
You too, thank you.
Okay. All right. So
Francis,
next on the
if I
list
may,
is
would you
yeah.
like to try the caller again?
Sure.
They are still holding. Okay, give me 1 second, please. Okay, caller, you are live.
Hello. Caller. Hello, are you there? Okay, Matt. Can't do this. Sorry.
Go ahead. Trustees, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. All right, so next on under public comments, we have Janet Geller. She sent us a petition to remove the new kayak racks from Louse Point. Can you bring caller number 1 back?
Yes, I can. Give me a second.
Hello?
And caller number 1, you are live.
Hello, Janet. This is Francis Bach. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
I'm good. So you'd like to discuss the
well,
kayak racks at Louse Point?
Yes. Yes. First, I would just like to thank you for allowing myself as a representative to talk about the new kayak racks, which 30 people signed the petition about, that I took around just in a couple of hours on the weekend. Probably I could have gotten a lot more names if I did it more times. But I'm sure this is representative. I was asked to read the petition. Is that what you would like me to do? And I do have some comments in addition to that. Hello?
Yes, read the petition. It's fine.
Okay.
Hi, Janet. Yeah, please don't go through the names,
Okay.
though. Okay.
Yes. Petition for removal of 34 feet of kayak racks. We, the undersigned, request the removal of 3 kayak racks from Louse Point. Louse Point, one of the most beautiful spots in the world, is shared by baymen boating out to sea, people fishing from the beach, kayaking, paddleboarding, swimmers, and beach lounging. A few years ago, racks for kayaks were erected, which people paid for a space won by lottery. This year, more racks, 34 feet long and almost 6 feet wide, 5 feet 9 inches, were erected, which encroaches on the beach where many people sit, thereby forcing people to sit closer to one another during a time when social distancing is mandated. This presents a possible health risk at worst and an intrusion at best. Further, the location of the new racks means that people would have to drag their kayaks to the water, interfering with people who are sitting near the water. It is also an ugly eyesore. We already share the beach, and it's been working out. We don't need more kayaks and less beach. Please remove these racks from their pleasant location. Thank you for your consideration. And as I said, 30 people signed this. as well as I put it on next door, and 12 people responded in the one time I put it on. In addition to that, I became aware after this petition was sent to you some of a couple of other concerns by other people. One which I think is pretty critical. Children swim right in the area in front of the new kayak racks. And as you may know, Louse Point is an unprotected beach with no lifeguard. So the mothers sit down by the shoreline and watch their children who are in the water. And I've seen children as young as 5 years old who are in the water there. What someone has to do who now has a kayak on these new racks is they would have to drag their kayak through that area where both beach people are sitting as well as the children are playing in the water. And the mother's concern, as well as my own, is that what if a kayak, as it's being dragged down, hits a child? Or what if a kayak, as it's being launched in that area, kind of wobbles a little bit before the person settles into it and again harms a child? In addition, the children are using the kayak rack sort of as things to walk on, hang from, and there was one child whose mother was taking out a splinter that the child got from, going up on those kayak racks. There are already 3 kayak racks that are further down the beach where there are grasses, and no one sits there. So that's perfectly safe, and that has been there for a couple of years already, and that seems to be working out fine. I myself am a kayak owner, and I, too, have my kayak there. So the issue is really, one, the safety of particularly children, but anybody who is sitting right in that area. The beach, that's the side most people sit on because that's the place that has good access to the water. Around the other side, it's very shallow, and there are some people that sit there, but the majority of people sit on the side just where the kayak racks were placed, which not only affects the beach, but affects people as someone tries to bring their kayak into the water, as I already said. And the other thing is that, there has to be some kind of a limit. What's happening now, most recently when I went to Louse Point, it's extremely crowded. It reminds me of Coney Island, to tell you the truth, and that's really awful. I've been going to Louse Point since 1970. I'm a homeowner in the area, and it has always been a natural, pristine place, and this is also ruining the whole look and feel of Louse Point. It's just a small little beach in a small town, and so there must be other places that it could be located. I myself could think of how to break it up and put it other places. Accabonac Harbor also has Gerard Drive on the other side, and there are already kayak racks there, and there are 2 more. We measured the kayak racks, and it looks to me like 2 more could be placed there, and 1 more could be placed where the other kayak racks at Louse Point are, and that would take care of where the 3 kayak racks are located. I mean, that's just my idea. I don't know the ramifications of it. I'm just mentioning, a suggestion. But essentially what we're asking is that to not spoil what is already a well-used beach with everyone getting along. Fishermen go at one end, they go to the point. Swimmers are at another part. Kayakers and paddleboarders are all over the place. And the baymen, when people don't swim in the channel, and most don't, the baymen have the channel to go out of. Most of us swim in front of the channel based on what I've observed. So that's the request that it just be housed in another place so that we can maintain what has always been such a wonderful place with a beautiful natural look and feel. So that's what people I've spoken to have asked for.
Right. Hey, Francis, we've got somebody way on hold. Maybe before we address Mrs. Geller's concerns, we could hear from that party because they've been waiting a while already.
Ms. Geller, do you mind?
Trustees,
I don't
excuse
know how
me.
you want to
can-
do it.
Don't worry about that caller. They just left.
Okay.
All right. Well,
All right.
I would really like it if we could finish this and then move on.
We're going to.
This is Rick. May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you feel there's been a loss of beach down there and that's contributing to some of the constraints that you're talking about?
Every year there's a loss of beach, but then, they do some dredging and put sand back. So, I mean, I haven't measured it, but that side is sort of like a U shape. I don't know if there's a loss or not on that side, but I do know I've seen in the past, them adding sand. It seems like they have to do it every year.
Okay, thank you.
But, maybe someone else really knows the answer to that. I'm just a citizen.
It's actually just the opposite. We need to take sand out of there to allow the boats to pass through.
Yeah, I don't know how it works.
So,
I'm sorry.
Not adding sand.
I was
Francis,
talking about around the other side.
can I stick my head in here for a second?
Go ahead.
All right. Arlene, do you have the pictures that I sent you earlier today? I met with Mrs. Geller on Saturday, and we looked at the area where the present kayaks are. The guy did a nice job on them. He kept them as close together as you possibly could. He used the minimal amount of area. These are, Arlene, these were the pre-existing kayaks that we have down there. Maybe,
Yes, they got a little out of order. I will let you know.
Arlene, it may have been the way I took the pictures too. Perhaps you can just click through these a little bit and I'll ask you to stop.
I'm just having a little trouble clicking through them, but see all photos. Just give me a sec. Here we go. Okay, so a little lettuce. This was your first one at the time. There, I think I can screen show it.
Okay. Francis, and the rest of the board, when Mrs. Geller and I met the other day, we tried to look for alternative sites. And frankly, in terms of areas along the beach, we're rather limited because the other areas that are left are either thick growth of Spartina and Distichylus, or we start to get ourselves too close to the launching ramp for safety's sake. And what we did look at is there's a couple spots that are somewhat devoid of vegetation that are upland a bit, that are along the trail going to the beach that might be possible alternative sites. Now, the little dilemma here is these are not sites that would actually be on trustee land. We would have to go back to Nature Preserve Committee and the town to, these are the existing sites. Now, right now, I think, Arlene, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have just about 79 kayaks down there.
Yes, we do. Correct.
Okay.
We only issued 9 more than last year.
Arlene, if you can hold on this. Okay. This is actually a picture taken of the new kayak racks. This is a picture taken from behind the kayak racks at the point. And I'm going to be honest with you. I looked at the area, I paced it off, and there's really a generous area left for beach bathing. Now, granted, on Saturday, was kind of an overcast day. There was probably less people on the beach than you would probably find on a typical Saturday afternoon this time of the year. But there seemed to be still ample room. Now, granted, there was a family that was kind of huddled up fairly close to the kayak racks, and I think that may have been, it was a windy day trying to get out of the wind. But right now, there is room. There does seem to be room for pedestrian access, egress here, and I'm really somewhat at a little bit of a loss. I do understand some of the people that use the beach, but here's the simple fact here, guys, is we started out several years ago when I first got on the board, we had no kayak racks. And at that time, what we had is we had a lot of complaints from both Harbor Patrol, the general public, and members of our own board at the fact that there was a lot of people that were basically leaving their kayaks in the dune grass, in the Spartina, along the shoreway. So the idea was to try and put some kayak racks to alleviate some of that congestion and basically save our natural resources down here. We put up two. The response was overwhelming. Okay, we had far more requests for kayak racks than we had the opportunity to accommodate them. Subsequent to that, a year and a half ago, we erected 3 more kayak racks, okay, which that accommodates approximately 24 kayaks. And we thought, well, this should actually satisfy to some degree the demand. Well, we found ourselves in a situation where the demand was such that we literally had more people that were unable to get spots on these racks. And these are all local people. The only people that these racks are available to are local property owners. But we found ourselves literally in a situation where we had more requests than we had kayaks. So here's the dilemma we have. I did look at over at Girard Drive. Girard Drive we started out with no kayak racks there 2 years ago. We put some kayak racks there. It might be a case we can add kayak racks, but people request slots based on the area. And Louse Point's a popular area. We could perhaps add kayak racks over to Girard Drive. But people are going to have to request Girard Drive. And we do this on a lottery system. There's still significant number of people that do not get slots here. And, right now, I think I counted 79 kayaks down there. And Mrs. Geller, I believe you might have actually even been number 79 here. The question I have to ask, here's a picture from the back. You can see this is taken, and this is not taken from the point. This is probably 50 feet from the point. There's a pretty good amount of beach here. Question we have for the board. We got a couple choices. One, we can try and relocate these kayak racks to an upland location to keep them proximate to the area that's being used. Or B, we can trim back and limit the number of kayak racks, knowing that there's going to be a significant number of the public that are not going to have the opportunity to get on this system and have kayaks on the racks. Or C, we could decide that given that the comments here were made that the kayaks are an eyesore, that we would remove them completely. And these are personal watercraft. And under the heading of personal watercraft, they are described as watercraft that are carried by the occupants, not dragged, carried by the occupants to the water and back. So I'd like to hear from some of our board members at this point, or members of the public on this, so we can get sort of a clear understanding of the wishes that we want to.
Jim, this is the kayak racks have been down near there in Accabonac Harbor for 20 years. The kayaks have taken off in popularity. They're pretty and, you know, I think we've left plenty of room for everybody down there. It's just pretty thoroughly looked over, and leaving it like it is.
This is John. I just wonder if there's another alternative here to your three alternatives, Jim, and that might be to leave these in place for a season and see if any problems develop during the season. I kind of agree with you that there's quite a bit of beach there. And the kayak racks are tucked up as close as they can be to the vegetation. And I don't think that would be a place that would be occupied by sunbathers or families, unless they are there on a windy day and are going to get out of the wind.
Yeah. Well, John, the other thing I think that needs to be pointed out here is the area that's described as the swimming area is actually the channel. Okay, and there's a nice buoy there. It describes on the buoy that this is not a swimming zone. So, we do have a bit of a conflict. We've fielded some complaints from members of the fishing community and the boating community about this very issue. In fact, only 2 meetings ago. So here's the question. How do we address this? I can explore a relocation of these kayaks, but it's not, I'm going to be honest, John, your suggestion is well taken and a good one. It's not a case where we're going to get an affirmative opinion or permission on this thing to relocate these things, probably until the end of this season at the earliest. So I think probably the prudent thing, so as to not disrupt the people that do have basically pulled lottery slots on this present 3 racks, would be to at the very least leave them for this season. But in the interim, we can explore an opportunity to try and come up with an alternative here.
Hey, Jim, Ben here, Dollinger. Quick question for the 3 options for option B, where you suggested terminating I think it was just the new 30 spots. Would that possibly take place mid-season, or would that be something that would happen?
No, I don't think that wouldn't be fair for the people that have ponied up $200 to rent a slot on the kayak racks. But that's something that looking forward, because we did get this petition that describes these kayak racks as an eyesore and such. And, I find it kind of troubling because it was done, as we all know, these kayak racks were done as a sort of a kind gesture of the trustees to the community to try and accommodate their sporting needs. And, if the community as a whole, not just the kayak users, but if the community as a whole doesn't feel that this is appropriate on public land, well, I think it's our responsibility to reconsider our own actions here.
Guys, also another consideration here. When the racks originally were constructed, they were often to accommodate people who claimed a disability or who were elderly and were unable to cart these things down there, and it was a means for them to get exercise. So, it's a no swimming area. I don't think we should even go near trying to accommodate swimmers. I don't know what the liability of that would be, Chris, but the only argument I could see is possibly that it's an eyesore, but that's depends on who's looking at it. So, I mean, before it was kayaks. They were in the grass. They were destroying the dune. It was a real mess. And this has at least gotten that better under control. At what point do we say, yeah, there are too many slots for too many boats? That's another thing I can consider. But again, as you said, Jim, they're there now. They need to finish out the season.
Francis, I think that's a fair position.
I would just add, as far as a liability standpoint, especially just looking at the photos I've seen thus far, I think that's a very, very limited exposure in terms of they're pretty out of the way, like tucked up off the beach a bit. And I think it's a negligible argument there that it's a liability issue at this point. So I don't think that should be one of the stronger considerations you guys take into account when you're making your decision here.
Well, I was actually addressing the liability of accommodating the swimmers in a no swimming zone.
Oh, okay. Well, we've talked about the idea of trying to keep the swimmers out with signs and things like that, but yeah, I don't know if we want to do that either.
There's a large buoy there that says no swimming in this area, but that's ignored. I too spend a lot of time down at West Point. I'm a homeowner in the area. Absolutely. Janet, go right ahead.
Thank you. I differ a little with what Jim, some of the things Jim has said. He and I were down there on a very cloudy day, and there were few people, even though it was a weekend. And when it's a nice day, the shoreline is still, that's the place people want to be, again, because of the children. And the whole place may be a no swimming area, but for the most part, people swim in front, not where the buoy is. Many of us know that you're not supposed to swim where the buoy sign is that says no swimming. We swim in the other direction. I don't know how to describe it. Where everybody has always swam, at least since I've been here. So I have seen a few people who are swimming beyond the buoy sign, and yes, they should not be. But the majority of people do know where to swim and do swim in the correct area. And whether you think children should be there or not, they are. And the kayaks do create a path right down to, that's where they would launch their kayaks, right through where the kids are swimming and where other people are swimming as well. So, that at least is what I've seen, and I go there practically at least every weekend and also sometimes during the week. And I can tell you there are always kids there. That's a fact.
I mean, that may be a fact, but the reality is the swimming area is on the bay side, not inside the channel. And just because they're there doesn't make it right. And quite dangerous.
No, they do swim on the bay side. That's what I didn't know how to describe it.
The bay side is over around the other side of the bay side is around the other side of the point, where you now find the plover fence area. That's the bay side.
Oh, yeah, no. People
don't want to swim there. They don't like the rocks. They don't like the seaweed. There's a lot of things that they don't like there. Yeah. But there's a lot of other beaches that are very nice.
Oh, Louse Point is so beautiful.
It is, but that's
beaches, of course.
But Janet, that's a boating channel. It's a boating channel, and we get complaints all the time about swimmers.
Okay. Yeah, well, I guess I'm not sure how to use the language, but I'm talking about not where the buoy starts, because where the buoy starts it says keep out, no swimming allowed. And that's where the boats go out. I'm talking about in front of the buoy, I guess is the best way I could describe it, near the shore. That's where I see people swim, and that's where the kids are.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you that it should not interfere with the bayment, of course not. But most people are swimming on the other side of that. You know, I don't know how to describe it. I'm sorry. That's the best I can do in terms of description.
No, I understand what you're trying to say, but the real issue there is that the channel itself is very shallow right now, and that's going to be dredged in the fall, and at that point it gets much deeper. Anybody else have anything to add or ask?
Maybe just everyone could, pay it a visit throughout the summer when they're over in that area, and as we get into the off season, we can start to talk about it.
Yeah,
I think that would be greatly appreciated.
This is Susan. Yeah, this is Susan, and I just want to chime in and say, I think that it's prudent of us to take a look at this and see if there are other possibilities, as Jim and John has mentioned. Certainly, we want, when I first joined the board, there was a request from many people to have more kayak racks, and so, they were recently built. I've been up there several times recently, and at least everything is organized. The boats aren't thrown around a lot. But I think we should go forward and try to see if there's a remedy that would be more pleasing, and take it from there. But we have had fishermen very strongly who have called to say that people are swimming in the channel and it's very dangerous. So, it's an issue of danger, and also, not having too many kayak racks. I don't know. I just have a kayak rack that I have to get a kayak for. So, but I understand, Mrs. Giller, your feelings, but also I think we need to look at this, and because we're trying to do the right thing by the community.
That would be wonderful.
Great. I like Rick's idea. Let's all visit Louse Point and take a look at it, and then talk about it in the fall.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Janet.
Thank you, Janet.
Good evening.
Thanks, Janet.
We appreciate your interest.
Good evening. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else on the phone?
You
Matt?
did, but they left, so you're free.
Okay, I'm showing one call is still holding. All right. Let's move on to new business. We have Napeag Lazy Point, notification from Mary Krogan, leaseholder at 276 Shore Road, lot 7N and part of 6N, Lazy Point. Minor maintenance repairs she would like to make to her shed, windowsills, and an entry platform. Anybody want to have a discussion on that?
Yeah. Hey, Francis, I think, I don't know, did everybody get the photographs of this?
Yes.
Okay. This is really basic maintenance. Okay. It does not require a building permit. And just to give everybody, kind of refresh everybody here, typically we don't issue permits for things like this. Merely what we do, even if it's something that does require a building permit, we make a decision whether it's compatible with the lease agreements that we have, and if so, we just grant that as such. So if anybody has any comments or questions, certainly we want to answer them, but I would like to put a motion that we just green light this and send Mary a note that it's okay.
Jim, this is John.
I'm happy to second it, and I just, for the record, would like to read the items that she would like to repair, and I did speak with Mary. It's about, as you say, Jim, this is about maintenance. She wants to replace rotted casing around the trim of her shed door. She wants to apply some water shield to her Kia 111 surface, her cedar clapboard, painting it arbor coat driftwood gray. She wants to replace 2 rotted windowsills and the sand rusted nail heads and the entry platform. She wants to replace the rotted deck planking, and there are pictures that accompanied her letter. So it's really about maintenance and just keeping her house in good order. So I definitely think that we should approve this.
I think there was someone who had a question.
Yeah, this
John?
is John. Yeah, Jim, you mentioned sending around pictures. I'm not sure if you meant to the whole board or just to your committee.
Well, I know Mary had sent this to Arlene. I didn't know whether Arlene had distributed it to all the board members.
I can try to bring them in the screen later, but I don't think you want to wait for them. I can email them if you want to look at them during the meeting, but it was just a picture of a shed and a window.
No, I didn't want to obstruct this whole thing. I just wanted to say that, I didn't get them. I don't know if only the committee or God.
No,
I'm comfortable with
they
the
were sent
committee's
to Jim,
assessments.
myself, and Mike Martinson. Arlene,
Yeah,
you
went to
sent it
committee.
to 3 of us.
I'm comfortable with the committee's assessments.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes, I'm seconding. Aye.
Okay. So we'll send her a letter, say go ahead.
Thanks, guys.
All right, number 2, an application from Susan Noble, leaseholder at 100 Shore Road, lots 52N and 53N in Lazy Point, for permission to place natural burlap sandbags in front of her lease site to protect it from storm damage and erosion. Now, this one has a long history where she was at one time hoping to build a revetment, and we've kind of made an agreement to allow her to seasonally place these sandbags to avoid the need for the revetment.
And that agreement seems to be working out fairly well.
Yes, and I remember her coming to us last year, and she actually put them in place herself. And I think, Jim, you were fine with that and suggested that was just okay. She came in to speak to us at the town hall. And
if I can bring the rest of the board kind of up to speed with the new application here, I'd like to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Susan called me about a week ago. We discussed her annual application for the sandbags. Now, if any of you have been down there, you've seen that they're woven polypropylene sacks that she's used in the past. And over the years, a lot of those sandbags, because they're exposed to the light and that they've begun to degrade, they begin to deteriorate. In fact, if you go down there after a storm event, there's some of the remains of those bags that get strewn from one end of the beach to the other. And we had a discussion about that. My suggestion was the possibility of using something that is more biodegradable and to include some sand with that and perhaps some beach grass planting that could actually grow right in the bags. And there wouldn't be the need that Susan's into right now, where she's got to kind of clean up the mess. And in the process of doing that, she's somewhat disrupting the very thing that she's trying to protect. And she was very agreeable to that. And I would like to make a motion that we do the annual approval on this as we've done in the past with the amendment.
And I'll second that. I would be happy to second that.
What's
And this is with the amendment of a biodegradable bag with
Yes.
with grass planting. Okay.
Yes, and allow for the grass planting. She was under the impression that to do the beach grass planting, she would need a whole different set of permits and have to be going back to not just us, but the town and even perhaps the DEC. And I think due to the benign nature of this, I have no trouble just agreeing to allow, how do you disagree with allowing somebody to plant native plants in their natural habitat?
Just out of curiosity, Jim, what's the material? Burlap, basically?
Burlap, yes.
The burlap, Jim, is the new biodegradable fabric, because I do see it in her handwriting that she wrote burlap.
I'd say it's not the new biodegradable fabric. It's the old biodegradable fabric. It's been around for a few hundred, maybe even 1,000 years.
And what about the type of sand that's in the bags? Is it going to be like good quality sand or something?
Well, no, I think you get a real discount if you buy this stuff from toxic waste sites. But yes, Ben, this would be just plain old sand that you would be getting from a local mine source.
Okay.
Yeah, her note says the bags will be filled with beach-compatible sand.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Why don't we go through the roll call on this? Okay, John Aldred,
Yes.
Francis Bach, yes. Rick Drew,
Yes.
Ben Dollinger,
Yes.
Tim Garneau,
Yes.
Jim Grimes,
Yes.
Mike Martinson, I think is absent. Susan McGraw-Keever,
Yes.
Bill Taylor.
Yeah.
Okay, done.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll move on to 3 Mile Harbor. We're going to have a discussion about abandoned watercraft. I think Ben brought that is bringing this to our attention.
Yes. Can you pull up those photos, Arlene? Are you there? So
Sorry, I was talking without it. I'll show the video first, and then there's just a slideshow like I had with Jim. So let me give it a try again, okay? 1 sec.
So these pictures were forwarded to me by someone who frequents 3 Mile Harbor area from like Hampton Waters up through Hams Creek. And it's a good discussion right after we had the Lazy Point discussion about Loud's point about the kayak rack removal. This is what could happen. This is probably what it looked like before there were kayak racks even there. It just seems kind of like what's that? Kind of seems like the wild, wild west of abandoned boats in this little area. It's pretty obvious a lot of them are abandoned. I think a lot of them were just left there at the end of the season. They get washed away in the high tide. There's a few different kayak racks that I'm not sure if those are sanctioned or allowed to be there. I know there's a few associations back there, but I'm not sure what the rules are for that. And what's up?
Ben, this is John. Can you just describe the area you're talking about?
Yeah, so basically from like the channel on the southernmost part of like over by Hampton's Waters all the way across past Boys Harbor over into Hams Creek is the basic area where a lot of these boats are abandoned.
Ben, are you sure they're abandoned? Because some of them look very nice.
I'm not sure. I think some are clearly abandoned, and I think others it's questionable if they are or if they're not. But these pictures were all forwarded to me, and the source just took pictures of everything that he wanted me to share with the board. So I think it's hard to decide what is abandoned and what isn't. We don't want to take someone's boat, but people should be held accountable for leaving their boats or abandoning them and letting them go to waste, I think.
I think we have a procedure for that at the end of the year. If they're there after November 1st, they can be impounded. Right now, I don't know, unless we know they're abandoned or they're just homeowners both pulled up adjacent to their property. I'm not sure there's much to do about it, but certainly shouldn't be there beyond November.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not
Ben,
sure how
where's
far.
that kayak? Where's the kayak rack located?
I think it's somewhere in Hands Creek.
It's just north of Hands Creek.
Uh-huh. And is that allowed to be built and stationed there? Do we know?
We allow it.
It's on private property.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, this definitely looks like a situation we want to look into.
And then if there are boats that are, clearly abandoned, someone can't just pick them up and throw them out, right? There's some sort of procedure in place.
A nice rack there, kayak rack
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, we work with the harbor masters. They come and pick them up and pound them.
Mm-hmm.
Store them at the police impound yard.
You know, a lot of this winds up being like abandoned property on our real estate.
I think one issue here, though, I've looked at areas north of our kayak racks at Hands Creek, and there are boats there that are pulled up pretty far, and they look like they're, homeowners' boats in that area. And I'm not sure where our jurisdiction ends and their property begins. So some of these boats may be on private property.
Yeah.
I mean, I've struggled trying to understand these boat storage on the beach regulations that are in place in East Hampton. It's my understanding that boats are allowed to land on the beach, that they're allowed to stay on the beach for a certain amount of time. Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah, the town code gives you the right to draw your boat up on the beach. You know, this is something we should look at in November or December. And anything that is obviously derelict, we should probably maybe temporarily put it at the dump for a little while and see if anybody claims it. And the good stuff we could impound and see what happens with it.
Well, Bill, it's obvious. It's obvious looking at some of those pictures, like the sunfish with the lichens growing on it,
Yeah.
the laser with the split hull. That these are truly abandoned boats. Now the question is, if they are on our beach, that is our property, we have removed obstacles in the past that have been on our property, and if it's a case where they should share the shoreline between our property and the adjacent private residents, do we notify those residents, ask them if their boats, if we don't get a response, do you actually just drag the boats up into their property and give them the opportunity to address the problem?
Another thing that we might consider, and we've been asked this actually by the harbor masters quite a while ago, is to recommend to the town board that legislation put into the code that all boats that are dragged up on the beach or adjacent to the beach be in some way permitted or registered. Their concern is that, if a boat's float away in a high tide or a storm, they don't know if people were in those boats. It can become a giant search and rescue operation just for a drifted away kayak. And we tried to address this with the kayak racks by fixing those Coast Guard tags that have identifying information on the kayaks. That's somewhat successful. But there's all sorts of boats pulled up adjacent to private houses all over the town. It probably should be considered holistically rather than trustees do this and another beach do that. So, might be time to sit down with harbor masters and town board members and see if some unifying legislation could be considered.
Yeah. We actually had, we had some meetings and we had a project like that somewhat underway before this virus stuff all started. It'd be good to have some means of identification for all of us.
I have a question. What's the difference between removing these boats and trying to get rid of that barge that we dealt with for 2 years?
Well, you could fit these in a pickup truck, first of all.
No, I understand that.
I think it's documented versus undocumented.
I don't understand.
Well, something like a barge may actually be a registered vessel, okay, that at one time or another was documented, whereas these personal watercraft, in all likelihood, are not.
Chris, do you have an opinion on that? Because you cited the town code section for the barge. I thought the town code section spoke to vessels a little more general. It did mention something about, putting a crimp on the documentation of the vessel if it was, not addressed. But it sounded to me like that town code section pretty much addressed any vessel.
Yeah, I think you're right, John. I don't have the code in front of me, but I read it the same way as well. So I would agree that there really should be no issue in dealing with these abandoned personal watercrafts, as well as a registered vessel such as the barge. I think it would be within us or with the harbor master's authority to deal with either of these types of vessels that have been abandoned.
Yeah, I think the town code defines a vessel as anything that can be used for transportation on water. Pretty general.
But I think from a practical standpoint, like you said, dealing with a couple, a flatbed truck to take these things out of there is a little bit easier and a lot less potential exposure for liability or environmental risks, as like it would be with dealing with the removal of a abandoned sunken barge, which could have fuel leakage issues, etc. So yeah, we're definitely dealing with two different animals. You're talking about small watercrafts versus an abandoned sunken barge.
Yeah, basically the responsibility for cleaning this up should belong to the owner of the vessel or whoever abandoned it. But removing
and trying to track down, the owners of cracked hulled tiny vessels like that is probably going to be a futile effort. So it might behoove us to undertake that on our own.
That's one reason I suggested looking at this after November, because you can just scoop anything up that's there. I have to ask questions.
I don't want it to become kind of like we'll just leave our boats on the beach and the trustees will get rid of it for us,
That's a good point.
We're constantly cleaning up after people. Anybody have anything else? Questions? No? Okay, so we agreed that we'll take a look at this in the fall. And we'll probably end up cleaning it up, but.
Yeah, there's some things that are obvious. You have to make a case-by-case decision, but it's probably the time to do it.
Well, what do you think about the idea of approaching, addressing the issue of permitting each storage of vessels rather than just allowing it to happen? Then you allow it to happen under certain, under some set of rules and regulations.
I think we have to look at the town code and see what it permits at this point. Down in Louse Point, and Bill has seen this. There was one J boat just as you get to that like 90-degree turn there, and the beach starts. So it's that beach access there. There was one J boat there early in the season. Now there's 2 J boats there, and I know people are using them, but they're storing them half in the grass. They're on the beach, and I'm waiting for the third one to show up. So, I mean, we again, I think they're allowed to do that at this point. So we have to look at the regulation.
If I'm not mistaken, though, the code gives the trustees latitude. That's how we're allowed to. Well, that's how through the code. That's the mechanism by which we put the kayak racks on the beach. The code gives us that latitude. So that latitude may extend beyond just locating kayak racks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I'm not quite sure what your suggestion is, but I know that, any vessel that is, as a powered vessel has propulsion is required by state law to be registered with, the New York State DMV. If you're suggesting registering other vessels with the town or with the trustees that are not powered, I think it's just going to be it's a big effort, and I think you'll always come up against a situation where people are going to be using their personal watercrafts, however they want. I'm not sure. I didn't quite understand your suggestion.
Maybe that was the wrong word. I mean, maybe permitting their storage on the beach by permit. In other words, allowing storage on the beach, but by vessel that,
Okay, I understand. From a legal perspective, I agree. The trustees have the latitude to permit, the use of of the beach like that. I think another discussion might be warranted into the can of worms that might open up as far as allowing people to store not only kayaks but vessels on the beach and public access.
But what it would do is it would give us access to ownership of those vessels, which we don't have at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a benefit.
Let me jump in and ask a question, if I may. It's Susan. On Mile Hill Beach, Rick, maybe you recall this as well. On the beach, there is a catamaran, which is stored pretty upland into the growth. I don't know the law, but are people permitted to just bring their craft up on the beach into the growth and leave their boat there like that? Because it's a pretty sizable catamaran.
Yeah, I believe that the boats are supposed to be on the beach and not in the grass, and that gets tricky with some of the bigger tides. So I think people are trying to protect their craft, but again, I think the review of the current regulations right now would be very appropriate. I think that Chris's help on this issue is going to be important, so that the review that we're talking about, which is now moving down the beach, so to speak, may be a bigger discussion. And I think the homework we can do now to document all of these things and start to spend some time with Chris going over what's on the books right now would be very helpful.
Yes. Okay.
Sounds good to me, Rick.
Okay. All right. We'll start the discussion.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Move on?
Thanks, guys.
All right. Old business. We have we have an attorney letter regarding the abandoned whaling barge, wheeling, somebody's name, barge at 3 Mile Harbor. Chris, you crafted a letter?
I did. I actually am not quite sure why this is on the agenda. I'm not sure there's much to discuss. Crafted a letter that we're going to shoot off to the owner of this, or who we think the owner is of this abandoned barge, and I think that's the right first step to do. So let's get that signed and out.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have to vote on this. We already discussed putting it out.
Correct.
Okay. Turtle signs.
Yes.
Yay.
Who's talking? Jim? Susan? Both of you?
I'll start with the green signs because Jim can talk to the metal signs. I would like to say that we do still have green signs in the vestibule. If anyone would like to pick up a sign and put it in their neighborhood, just let us know where that sign is going to go so we can retrieve them and hopefully maybe use them next year as well. I'd like to thank all the community members. Really, people are calling in and they are putting these signs up, and I greatly appreciate it on behalf of all the turtles that we are able to make the public aware that they need to slow down, because right now from spring through the summer, early fall, September, the turtles are traveling, they are mating, and the females are laying their eggs. And for the public, most people do know this, but if they don't, if you see a turtle in the road and you stop, pick it up if you can, and help it along going in the direction that it is going, because it is obviously going to go either to lay eggs or head into the water. They like to be in wetlands and pond areas, so be on the lookout. And I would like to send a letter to, with the board's approval, have a letter sent out to both Stephen Lynch and Andy Sabin from and Jim, you can pick up on this. This is very exciting, and I'm very grateful to Mr. Sabin and the Highway Department for helping us with these signs, the new signs. Jim?
Yeah. Well, anyway, guys, what we did is I reached out to Andy Sabin originally after the meeting, 2 meetings ago, when the fellows from CTUC came and talked to us about the Diamondback terrapins. I reached out to Andy Sabin really just to find out where he was getting those signs years ago that he used. And Andy, being who Andy is, took control of this thing. Didn't tell me where he got the signs, but he just ordered the signs, donated 24 signs to the trustees in the town of East Hampton to be put up at various locations. When we actually prepared a map with the various areas, it was kind of clear that we had more than 24 locations, in which case Frank from SOFO advised me that they would order additional signs as much as we may need. I think we're up to about 36 locations. The cautionary thing I would like to say, I do see these signs basically all over the place right now, and I don't want to dilute the value of where these signs are going, for the fact that we want to put them where truly there's history and evidence that turtles typically use the area. So some of the area signs are in all likelihood will not be going up in exactly the same spots. But in any case, Steve Lynch was gracious enough to donate some of his staff and some of his materials to help this happen. And I think it's a nice way of our board and the community at large working together towards a very positive goal here.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I would like to send out a letter of thanks to SOFO and to the Highway Department. Jim, you think that's a good idea?
Well, we can do that. Steve Lynch was very, very adamant about not making a big deal about this.
So I think a letter coming from the trustees of thanks is always welcome.
Okay. Well, we can certainly do that. Cat's out of the bag here.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have anything else on that subject? All right, let's move on to Georgica. We have an amended buffer restoration plan submitted for Z1 LCC, owner of 19 Chauncey Close. Suffolk County Tax Map 301-15-1-5. Application for Phragmite removal and a wetlands restoration project was first submitted August 21st, 2019. Jim, you want to talk about this? Or?
Well, actually, guys, I'm actually involved in this project, so I will recuse myself from any discussion here. I'd like to let that be taken over by another member of the committee, if that's okay.
Yeah, this is Rick, and I did go to the office and pick up the file on 19 and 23 Chauncey Close. It is a project for Phragmites removal, some shoreline revegetation. There will be some core logs used. There are some excellent plans on file at the office. I have been to the property. It has New York State DEC permits in place. It is adjacent to other Phragmites removal projects in the area and kind of wraps around into Georgica Cove, where we've had a lot of water quality issues and not really great water flow. So I think it's a good project for the board to consider. I'd like everyone to have a chance to, look at the file if they would like to. And if you want to visit the property, please let me know. We might be able to schedule a visit. And I'd like to table this until the next meeting and, try to move a vote along at that time.
Sounds good.
Hey.
I would like to see it, Rick. If you have time, I would like to go.
Okay. I'll reach out to you, Susan.
All right. Thank you, Rick.
Yep.
Rick, was that other property number 23, Chauncey Close?
I believe it's 19 and 23.
Okay.
They also received their village approval and their DEC. So I don't know if they're trying to do this work soon or if there's time, for when they're, it's been over a year and a half we've had this application tabled.
Right. Well, if we need to check in with another agency, Arlene, let's talk about that, and we'll do that before the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe someone can talk to the contractor and see how anxious they are.
Rick,
okay, we'll do.
May I ask you, I think I know these properties from a former owner. Are these new owners? Do you know?
I'm not that familiar with the history. I think so, but I'm not sure. So
okay.
Why don't we talk about that some more? But it's a beautiful property, and it looks like the revegetation plan is going to take in some of the natural considerations, which are waterfowl habitat, and I think that's really great, to see the pond maintaining its natural characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
So I like some of those aspects of the project.
All right, so I'll look to get in touch with you then. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, Roads Committee, general update, access, and inappropriate use of trustee properties.
Yes, Francis, thank you. As everyone knows, trustee roads have always fostered commerce in East Hampton, and in an era of ecotourism, I think to your point earlier, Francis, about cleaning up after everyone, responsibly making public spaces available is becoming more difficult and more expensive. So I'm trying to apply that kind of thinking to some of the issues facing our roads. We saw the dumping of the tree cut over on Old Sag Harbor Road. We have issues in the Grace Estate. We did get the management plan for the Grace Estate and the easement that's over the property. And I thought that before, we start considering limiting public access, we should understand some of the background on the property. And these documents, I think, are the key to that history. And then have a better conversation. I know we've kicked around maybe locking the gate and things like that. But it's a difficult conversation when you're balancing public access with responsible stewardship. So I'm still pondering that. I'm talking to some other board members, and these things apply over in Barcelona Neck, a really another beautiful property, Town Line Road. We have videos now of people riding dirt bikes and some other things that aren't really allowed right now, and a lot of littering and dumping going on. So we are a part of this public access discussion today. It's very relevant, very contemporary, and it's just proving to be difficult to figure out the path forward. So, if anyone has any thoughts on it, that would be, appreciated, and, definitely available to talk about it. But I am continuing to speak with other committees and other parts of the town government to, try and figure that out.
Good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Francis, could I
Yes.
interrupt for a moment? Because I know we're moving along, but I think we passed over aquaculture, mosquito larvae water sampling survey.
You did, but before we get to that, I think Jim has to leave. So
Oh, okay.
say good night and happy anniversary.
Hey, thanks, Francis.
Oh,
Good night.
happy anniversary, Jim.
Happy anniversary.
Anniversary.
All right, so yes, that was at the bottom of the first page. Mosquito larvae survey. Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome. John, you want to begin and then I'll follow up? John?
Yeah. I'm just unmuted.
Oh, okay. I can't see anybody because I'm in my car on my phone.
We went out last week, Monday, and it was a moon tide, a new moon tide, I believe it was. It was a moon tide. So the marsh was flooded, and as a result, we did find late-stage mosquito larvae and pupae, and there was a spraying scheduled later that week in the targeted hotspots that we found larvae. This is pretty much just on the west side of the harbor. We're going out again in a week, next Monday, and again it's another mean tide. So depending on the conditions of weather conditions, wind, and the predicted height of the tide, we have more or less problems. Go ahead, Susan.
Hello?
Go ahead, Susan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't hear you that well, John, but okay. I was unable to hear really what you were saying, so if I am being redundant, please let me know. Edwina Von Gaal and I are covering the polygons 144 and 145, if I'm not mistaken there. And I found out from Tom Iwaneco, Suffolk County Vector, that they are really not using even the polygon numbers any longer. They're just using the GPS to identify spots. So that was good because Edwina and I had been using 138 and 139, but we had more mosquito larvae found this last Monday sampling. And what was interesting was when we met John toward the end, because John was by himself surveying, and we ended up in front of Edwina's home, we scooped up some larvae that John said was pupae, and then it looked like beetles to some people, and I sent a video on to Tom, and he said they're called tumblers, which I had never heard before. They look like beetle larvae. But in fact, there were a few that were caught on the rim of my cup, and you could visibly see that they were rounded and they had a tail, and they were indeed pupae, but they moved differently than the pupae that we had seen prior to this in the years past. There were several more areas at our typical hot spots where we had mosquito larvae. So as a result, Tom Iwaneco, Suffolk County Vector, did say there would be targeted application of treatment this past week, and I believe that was on Tuesday of last week that it was done. We had I have been doing some research to find this path that has been mowed, and it starts up off Spring Fireplace Road. There's a cluster of homes. The one home has a hot spot and has had a hot spot now for 3 years toward the end of their mowed lawn, which they are permitted to have by zoning code, which changed in 1984. They were grandfathered in, but the mower that they're using has tires, and that mower has created large gouged out areas on the salt marsh. And so we are finding more habitat areas for mosquito larvae as a result. But there was this pathway that hugged the salt marsh treed area for quite a distance. And last week it ended with the view of Edwina's home. And that was a very long pathway. And a lot of it is being dug up by this mower. And there are puddles as a result from the rain. So they are creating mosquito larvae habitat where there had been none before the mowing. So I, with Edwina, we walked down toward the harbor from a driveway, and we discovered that there is this pathway that has a sign 75 or 50 feet into the path that says Nature Conservancy on it. So I contacted through Dr. Mayer, Nicole Mayer. She put me in touch with a fellow named Joe Jansen, and he sent out people from his office this past week who went to the trail, and they themselves are not maintaining this trail. It's on the sign. It says it's open for educational and scientific purposes, but it's not a public access area. They have easements there and a title to participate. The Nature Conservancy does, but it's not open to the public. So they are now, Joe said that he would reach out to Brian Frank in the planning department, and I reached out to Melissa Winslow, Sam Klein, and Kim Shaw today and sent pictures so that they could take a look at it, the Department of Natural Resources. But apparently whoever is mowing this is doing more damage to the salt marsh by creating mosquito larvae habitat areas to grow in. So that's, at least we found out what that was all about. And hopefully we'll be able to remedy that. People are calling apparently to complain about mosquitoes. So I'd like to just let the public know to please, if you are mowing your lawn, to watch, that your tires are not creating problems with puddles, and with the heavy rains that we've had recently, that has exacerbated the problem for a lot of people. So that's about it, and we'll start next Monday on our next visit and see where we are.
Okay.
Hello?
We're here.
That's it. Okay, that's it for the mosquitoes.
John, you have anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. All right, so thank you. Move on to 3 Mile Harbor. We have additional information received from Tillenhast, owner of 19 Will Curl Highway, a project for beach and bank stabilization. It's before the town ZBA now. I haven't seen this additional information. Has anyone else?
Yeah, I've seen it. This is the new survey that was asked for by us in the planning department. This came in Thursday.
Okay.
I know the planning department, and as of Friday, hadn't seen it yet either. And I just think we should table this until the committee gets a chance to take a look and go over it, and perhaps talk to the planners about their take on it.
Okay.
That's my view.
I'm sorry, I missed that last thing.
That's my take on it anyway.
Okay. So we're going to let it go through the process a little bit before really addressing it. All right, move on to administrative. We have payment of the bills. Optimum, $136.83. Staples, $404.23. Mike DeSuno and Sons, $800 for opening of Georgia Pond. East Hampton Business Services, $64.88. Montauk Marine Basin, $281.62. That's for gas and bleach. Seacoast Enterprises, $182.32 for gas and hardware. Star Island Yacht Club, gas and oil. I don't see a number for that one. So, okay. Hamilton Property Services, very timely. $1,955.25 for 4 kayak racks and repairs. And Wittendell's Florist, $162.94. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
Make a motion to pay.
Motion to pay the bills.
Okay, and I think we're going to table the one for Star Island Yacht Club until we see what that figure is.
I'd just like to make a comment that I like the parentheses so we know what the bill is for. If doing that, that'd be helpful.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean on the agenda. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have minutes, April 13th, 2020. Anybody have a chance to look at them?
I believe I have looked at all of these. Arlene, would you just confirm that? I've made suggestions for all of the minutes that are here and sent them back to you.
Susan, you have looked at them multiple times, a little while ago, and then the final drafts. Yes, you've read all 4 of them and made, whatever corrections.
Okay, so
I looked at them
can
as
I make
well.
a motion that we approve them?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. And financial report for the month ended April 30th, 2020, and the month ended June 30th, 2020. We start with April 30th.
Francis, I had a chance to look at the April financials, and they appear to be in order. And I would make a motion
Okay.
to approve them.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Who
Okay,
seconded?
John.
June 30th?
John did? Okay. Did we do the renewal of the certificate of deposit?
Not there yet.
No.
Sorry?
I jumped over that.
Okay.
June 30th? No one had a chance to look at that? We'll table those.
Yeah, it's table.
Anybody there?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, so we'll
Tabling
take
June 30th?
Yes. All right,
Okay.
and renewal of a certificate of deposit ended 5/6/79. A motion to renew?
Renew? Yes. I'll make a motion to renew the certificate of deposit.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And who seconded it?
John.
John. Thank you, John.
Okay, I don't have anything else for this evening. Does anybody on the board have a comment or anything else you want to bring to our attention?
I'd like to bring something up, if you guys don't mind, very quickly. When I'm not lawyering, I do spend a decent amount of time in Montauk Harbor, and have been speaking with some of the locals. They wanted me to let the group know that the new pump out operator has been excellent thus far. Very outgoing, friendly, proactive. He can be heard on the radio, doing a really nice job. And I see him around a lot, just waving to people. He's just been a really great asset to the pump out operation. And he's getting a lot of great reviews across the board here in the Montauk community. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that's going pretty well.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Chris.
Yes.
Sorry. I was just going to ask, is this the fellow who wrote the editorial story about being a pump out boat?
Yes. Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
I enjoyed it in the East Hampton Star. It was a really nice, I forgot to say it, it was a really nice article that he wrote, and I thought, what is his name, Chris?
I believe it's Jeff. I don't know his last name, but from what I hear, it's night and day from the experience last summer. So good stuff there.
We hired him last year as a part-timer, and he's been able to move into this position full-time. And yeah, I think he's done quite well from what I've heard also. I'm glad to hear that, Chris. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I guess with that, we'll say good night. And we will see you again on the 27th.
So, motion to-
Okay.
Do I have a motion to close?
To close.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Have a lovely
Good night,
evening,
everybody.
everyone.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Okay,
Hey, everyone.
thank you, Matt.
Bye.